Mark, good morning. Okay, tell us about the rugby then.
Yeah. Listen, this weekend was filled with sport, not only results but lessons. I mean,
Okay,
let's start with the Bokke, and we can't talk about the Bokke anymore without mentioning the performance of Sacha Feinberg-Mngomezulu. I mean,
yeah,
37 points. He's the new record holder.
I
Listen,
know it's
and the
amazing.
Boks in the last two games have garnered 110 points. It's been a bit of a coming, almost.
Yeah,
So Bokke,
yeah,
very happy with
yes.
that. Next test next
So,
time.
what's the lesson?
Uh, well, the lesson there, which is the one I'm going to repeat when I come to the Ryder Cup, is how
Okay,
you deal with victory and defeat. And I
okay,
think
okay.
I think strangely and unusually, the rugby people handled it better than the golf people. It's usually the other way around. But
Yeah,
this, I guess golfers are mostly about themselves, individuals. And very
right.
occasionally they play in teams. And when they play in teams, their fans seem to lose it. I mean,
Yes,
as Rory McIlroy said at the end of the thing, which was probably the biggest comeback in history. I mean, Europe had them
right,
done and
right,
dusted on the morning of the final day, and they came back to within a point and all of that good stuff. Lost by 2 points
right,
eventually.
right.
But the crowds were badly behaved. Well, always, a very small percentage of them, which is not sort of
Well,
not proper golf, if I might say so. So
yes, no, no, no.
I
It
think,
does seem strange to me that golfers should indulge in that behavior. You
yeah,
understand rugby players and
or soccer players or what,
soccer,
yeah,
boxing, to play from.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
But
um,
maybe they're just not used to it. But they had a full go,
yes,
and it got out of hand at one point, and then it sort of came back together. And it had
right.
something to do with whether the fans were winning or losing, in my view. Well,
Oh,
evidence would
okay.
suggest.
Yes, yes, yes.
And so,
Funny
yeah,
that.
guys, modesty in victory and modesty in defeat, I think, is something we can learn about life. But what a weekend of sport. I was up till 1:15 this morning watching the Ryder Cup,
Okay,
a world event of sport. Anyway, back to our little world. What's happening?
okay.
What's happening in Joburg? What's happening in my city? Tim,
Well,
what's your
I
view?
mean, it is interesting that the whole advent of Helen Zille being the candidate for the DA just seemed to have
Yeah,
ignited a whole new sort of tension into the
yeah,
scene.
yeah.
Which I don't know whether you were a Zille supporter or not. I just think it's a fantastic thing. You know what I mean? I mean, it's great that that the whole political system can be invigorated by a politician who's championed by some, demonized by others. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
enjoying seeing the repercussions.
Well, here's my observation.
Yeah.
It is and can be a lot of fun, but
Right.
unless and until we move away from the notion that politicians can run businesses or cities, for
Right.
that matter, we won't get to a solution. And as you say, the recriminations and the praise and the denouncing and all of that is all been about Helen. I think she'd be a great orchestra leader. I've said it before, but I think
Right.
without a professional team, Joburg's going number. And it's not just about the politicians appointing a professional team. My view is we need an independent executive, none of whom are politicians. They're all professionals, all of them,
Right.
including the mayor. Okay. And
Right.
so, I'm going to make a case for the independence. I'm going to make a case for professional teams. I'm going to make a case for, professionalism winning over populism. And so,
Okay.
what do you want to do about that? Can that ever happen? Can we ever replace the civil service with a functional professional service in South Africa, in our political world?
Well, the country that has succeeded most obviously in this whole process has been Singapore. They did a very simple thing. They decided to pay them equivalent rates to the private sector. You know what I mean?
There
And
you go. You better read my column this week.
no,
Exactly.
no,
If
you
you
know
want
what I
to
mean.
get some
But
smart, some lawyer or some smart accountant to
yeah,
leave RMB and go into Joburg City,
yeah.
well, pay up.
Yeah, but it's not as
Sorry.
simple as that. because
Yeah,
it's not just about paying equivalents. It's also about demanding the equivalent outcomes, right?
hundred
Um,
percent
and
outcome
having and
based.
having yeah, and having the same kind of accountability systems. So
Yeah.
because at the moment, what we have is extremely highly paid civil servants with no accountability at all, or a sort of fake accountability system where if you
Uh,
improve the situation by, in the opinion of somebody or else, by a little bit, then not only have you sort of justified your existence, you also get a bonus. In some of the public sector organizations, I've noticed they paying enormous amounts of money. A factor of 4 times what the president gets paid. And the accountability is just not there.
no, but if it was outcome based, I'd have no issue with it. And if as you
Okay.
say, if the opposite was true, if you didn't perform, you got fired, and there's no discussion. I think the rule number one, it seems to me, is party allegiance. Okay,
Right.
stay true to your colors. That what got you there. And
Right.
that's just fundamentally flawed. Actually, it's my column this week is about this. I won't go on about it, but incentive schemes favor everybody. If you share the spoils in some proportion, once you've achieved basic promises, then everybody wins, and more money gets created, more jobs get created, and the thing becomes kind of self-solving. But there's a
Right.
massive step that we need to take away from the difference in working for public and working for private. And so
Right.
that bravery is absent. That uncomfortable crossing
Right.
is going to be very difficult, but as necessary as difficult things always are. But
Right.
business is also doing some stuff on the side, isn't it, Tim? I mean,
Yes. Yeah. 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 I attended a
what do you
function
think of
last week.
that?
Well, yeah, I mean, Business for South Africa is this organization. It's about 160 CEOs of the biggest South African companies, and it's until now it's got involved in these very specific, very targeted interventions in to help government. So the obvious one was ESCOM. It's also done work on Transnet. It's also done work on youth unemployment, obviously on job creation. So and it's done some extraordinary work, and just listening to the people involved talking about it. They have set targets, and they try and confine themselves to something that they can define very precisely. And but the complexity involved in getting to very seemingly quite simple outcomes can be extraordinary, and they are welcomed by government, and there's this tune ordering and all of that sort of stuff. But and now they're looking for other things to do, and one of the things that they've decided to do is maybe help with Joburg. So they're going to have a report back. They're going to discuss it with all of the
Yeah.
sort of people. And what do
So,
you think of that?
well, it's of course noble, but there's always the but. Okay, so
Yes,
the rebuttal. At what point when you're doing things on someone's behalf are you actually
right,
weakening them? At what point do extra lessons stop teaching and just carry on helping? And in their absence, nothing has been gained. And so I actually
yes,
think an intervention which results in an upskilling and fundamental change in the remuneration and other structures and reporting and all that sort of stuff is going to be far more valuable over the long term than a helping hand. Okay. I mean, I don't, helping hands might, and our business doing it in their own vested best interest because they need a positive environment to operate in. But I think when you do something for somebody, it's very
right.
different than when you train someone to do something better themselves. And I'm
I
for the
know. I
latter.
mean,
And yeah.
yeah, I mean they recognize this, obviously, right? So, and they are doing lots of training. There's lots and lots and lots of training. That was part of the function was to kind of lend CEOs to help a hand with logistics and somebody so they're trying to kind of
Well, that's good
help
stuff.
introduce best
Yeah,
practice. So that's fine. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm kind of happy
yeah.
with that. I'm a little bit more skeptical about the intervention with Joburg than I am with the intervention with ESCOM, for example.
Nationally,
And
or yeah.
um,
Why?
just because just because I think it's a little bit more political. You know what I mean? It just feels political to me. and it feels as though it's sort of propping up it will be seen as propping up flailing organization. And I'm not so sure. That seems like taking sides to me as a little bit. I don't know. But I mean, Helen Ziller is she said that she's in favor of them doing this. So maybe my fears are
Well,
overwrought.
at this stage, Joburg is in such dire straits that all hands on deck and any help helps. Okay. But it's not a solution,
Yes,
okay, to keep helping
yes,
someone out. Let me get controversial to say that Ozempic is not as good as a change in diet and lifestyle. Okay. And
yes,
so, I think if we're looking for an enduring solution here, we
right.
have to sit in one room. The incumbents who are the accused and the competents who are the uninvited. And we need to go
Right,
like, what is the end game here? Have we got common purpose? I mean, is there at the center of all of this discussion a
right.
desire for a successful, in inverted commas, Johannesburg? And what are the two definitions of success? Okay. Now, if your definition of success is that we employ all of our mates, then you're not going to reach an accord with someone whose definition of success is that we create a successful economy based on principles of merit. If those two if those two can't intersect in some
Yes.
desperate way now, rather than then we've got nothing.
Well, but wouldn't everybody agree to that readily? I mean,
I
wouldn't
don't think
everybody say,
so.
well, obviously our goal is to have a fantastic city. No, nobody would disagree with that
I don't. I
as a
disagree
goal.
with
No
you,
one's
Tim.
going to
The
admit. I
evidence.
mean, if your intention was to use the city to put all of your mates, into high-paying jobs, right? You're not going to
Yeah.
admit that up front. You're not going to say that's your
Well,
function.
well,
You're going to say to
unless
everybody you want a great city, surely.
unless the money runs out, unless you can't anymore. Okay, and we
Right,
are there. Okay,
right,
unless the capital, this is all comes down to capital raising, your
right.
ability to fund your intentions. Okay, by
Yes,
third parties. There was an interesting question raised in the US about the reasons why people would pay more for a bond issued by, I think it was Microsoft or Johnson and Johnson, than they are
right,
paying for government bonds in the US. In the US, nogal, okay. And
right,
the reason is because they have more faith in those two private organizations and their ability to pay predictably and generate returns. And so it all
right,
comes down which of the two things we're talking about will raise capital and which will detract capital. Okay. And I
right,
argue that everything we're doing in Johannesburg right now repels capital
right.
for those who have choice. And so we end up taking money from the taxpayers, which is the stroke of the pen solution. And as we take more and more money from taxpayers, less and less taxpayers want to play. We are the
Yeah,
shareholders of South Africa, the taxpayers.
yes,
Ultimately, you go to your shareholders, and that's where we are now. And the shareholders need to demand a different
right.
performance if you want our money.
No, that's
Um,
true. I mean, it is. I agree with that. Or maybe I can put it in a different way, or put it in the way that
yeah,
that I understand. And that is, I always have this thing about how economic growth. Everybody thinks economic growth is very complex. It's very difficult to achieve economic growth. That's what everybody will tell you in government. That's why
no,
South Africa hasn't been achieving it. And I think it's actually very easy because the correlation between economic freedom and economic growth is very tight. So
yeah.
all you need to do is introduce more economic freedom. The more economic freedom you introduce, the more chance it is that you'll get that investment that you're talking about and that you'll start this virtuous cycle. It doesn't have to do with narrative. And this
No,
is
it
what
doesn't have to do with narrative. It does. It has to do
and
with, as you
everybody in
put
South
it,
Africa's everyone in South Africa's is obsessed by narrative. The narrative is
yeah.
wrong,
But
but the
yeah, but
narrative
you
isn't
have to
wrong.
enable it. Yeah, as you said,
Yes.
Tim, you're
Sure.
enabling it, okay? But once you've
Yeah.
enabled the free environment, so it's easy to do business here and it's easy for business to start and all that stuff,
Right.
there are some basic functions of government which need to be in place. Supply of water,
Of
supply of
course.
energy at the right price, supply of security and healthcare and education, all of that. There are some things which the private sector would only do reluctantly and at a price not affordable to the population at large. And
Yes.
so we take in the discussion we're having now about the freedom of economic, prosperity and all that stuff,
Right.
presumes as a foundation that those things are functional and operational and in place. And if your
Right.
input cost of electricity, we've seen this, we've seen what's happened in the steel
Right.
industry and everywhere else. If the input cost of electricity is higher than the rest of the world because Eskom has failed in its various forms, then the people who make steel can't compete with the rest of the world, no matter how clever or smart or free they are to do so. And so there
Right.
is still a role for government, the hard stuff and the social stuff, you know.
Right.
And so this partnership can never be one or t'other. It has to be, what is your job? What is mine? You
Right.
get the ball out of the scrum, I score the tries. Can we get out of each other's way? Okay.
Yes.
And I just don't know whether we've got, because we are burdened with baggage, burdened
Yes.
with baggage.
Yes.
And the whole world seems to be building up their baggage quotient. But we burdened with baggage, and we can't, at some point, without a fabulous set of leaders, go, let's call up on that past, let's do something about the future. And until we do that, Tim, and the only way that's going to change is with the vote at the ballot.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, I'm getting
Okay.
all
What
excited.
what
Maybe we
about
should talk about.
no? Yeah, talk about something completely unexciting like house prices.
Oh, God, we are seeing record house prices everywhere, but also high interest rates. Now, there's an economic
Right.
equation that's not sustainable. Okay.
Okay.
And we're also seeing, in my view,
Right.
easier and easier credit and the giving of security of less and less appropriate assets. So people are starting to borrow money against their pension funds, or borrow money against their earnings, borrow money against their whatever they've got, their future. We are selling our future to consume our present in South Africa, and the interest rates and growth rates do not present an environment in which that is a advisable personal economic strategy. And so,
Right.
we, who's buying the houses? It's not us. Okay,
Well,
the
but
houses.
aren't interest rates coming down? I mean, that's
Well,
wouldn't
yeah.
isn't this what you would expect in
Well,
a declining interest rate environment?
yeah, but I mean, declining. I mean, what are we? Our interest rates are double the inflation rate.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well,
yeah. Well,
still
yeah.
they're less than they were,
That's
2
like
years ago or
saying
whatever.
that's like saying the guy's time for the 100 meters has declined from 20 seconds to 16 seconds. He's got a chance. He's got no chance, man. He's got to get below 10 even to qualify for the final. Okay,
Okay.
we are
Okay.
out of line. We are out of
Okay.
line, and we are overbanked, funnily
Right.
enough,
Right.
across so many sectors, and underbanked in so many others. There is a mindset change, which is we need capital, not debt. As
Yes.
individuals, as the country, as everything else, we over borrowed, and it's getting more and more expensive. And if we solve Joburg,
Right.
Joburg would be able to raise its own capital. I'm sure
Yeah.
that Cape Town can start thinking about issuing municipal bonds to fund their project and decentralizing, various services and so on. Of course, there are
Right.
solutions, but we talk about them, Tim. I don't think we've got enough. I don't think we've got enough bridges between us. Whether the GNU is in government or the GNU is between business and government or the GNU is anywhere, there isn't enough common purpose. We haven't got over each other's stuff.
Okay.
Oh
Well,
man,
I
this
mean,
is
I don't
tiring.
think I mean, I do think that there are parts of Cape Town which just look to me as though the prices have gone too far. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
don't.
those are foreigners.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I know, but I mean, even considering that,
And by the way, they include Joburg people as foreigners. So,
Yes,
yeah.
that's true. This is
The
true.
bloody foreigners are here. But I heard him speaking Afrikaans. Yeah, but he's not from the Western Cape.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
anyway,
okay.
that's,
Uh,
I don't know, Tim.
all
I
right.
really don't.
What
Um,
about
I
what
see
about
Canada.
yeah,
Canada has banned guns. They're giving people a year's grace to get some money
right.
for handing in your guns, and then from October next year, no more guns. I don't even want to start that debate, but I kind of starting to think that we've got to do something quite serious about violence, which seems to be everywhere.
Right.
But the gun debate is a difficult one because you make it illegal, then all the baddies have it. But I don't know. But it's interesting that they've come to the fore with
Are they
that.
really going to do that? Are they? I thought Canadians liked hunting and stuff like that. Is this
Yeah, they
including
do. But
hunting?
but
Yeah.
they're kind of opposed to hunting each other. Yeah, I think
Okay.
that that's what it's a good idea. Okay, yeah. So that's where they kind of put their
Never.
foot down. All right. Yeah. I don't know. I don't want to enter into that debate. It is a complex one.
Okay.
What have you
Well,
got
you
for me?
raised it.
Tell me something. What asset classes are you getting upset or excited about?
Okay, well, yes, I did have, I was thinking about this, and I want to tell you something that I think is very interesting, and that is that the gold price and Bitcoin have diverted. They are now on
Yeah,
different paths. Bitcoin is down and
yeah,
gold is up. Um,
yeah.
and I just think that's very interesting. And I think, and my question
Are you
here is,
buying or selling that mismatch?
oh, I don't know.
So,
I don't have
if
enough
you
capital
believe that
loss.
that is true, you must buy gold, sell Bitcoin. I would be a
Yeah.
brave man to buy gold and sell Bitcoin. I mean,
Okay.
I might be selling that divergence. What do you
Okay.
think?
Oh,
Huh?
really? Oh, all right.
Would you? Well, the question is, would you buy it? Would you double up on that speech with your
I don't
money?
know. I don't
I
know.
don't know
I don't.
either. Huh?
It does seem to me, Bitcoin's now over one Bitcoin is now worth over 2 million rand. I mean, I think that's
Yeah.
pretty high. I think that's I don't
I
know
don't
how
know
much
whether
higher
that's
higher
high or
is that.
low. I don't even
Oh
know
no,
what
you
the
can't tell.
absolute price is. I don't know whether it's high or low, but I'll say this. It
Right.
seems to me that there's more and more usage for Bitcoin and less usage for gold. So gold is a store of
Okay.
value, and Bitcoin's
Okay.
becoming a medium of exchange. Okay, and those are two
Okay.
completely different discussions. And
Okay.
so, you got to think about Bitcoin as it's not a store of value. It's a medium of
Right.
exchange, which is becoming increasingly popular. And so,
Except for this, right? You can't.
yeah,
The one thing that you can't do with Bitcoin is you can't use your bank account to transfer it. And I do think
yeah,
that will be the critical point. At
yes.
some point, some bank is going to say, "Okay, here, you can,
Bitcoin is good for settlement. Yeah, they will say
yes, no,
that.
yeah, you can
And I
move your
was in
money
Sandton
into
City
Bitcoin
the
and out
other
of it."
day.
Yeah.
I was in
Would you
Sandton
advise? Just by
City.
the way, would you advise a bank to do that? Would you advise banks to say, "Okay,
Well,
it's got sufficient credibility now.
well,
We'll put it on your account, on your bank account."
well. I'll answer in a minute, Tim.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, uh,
Go
a
ahead.
bank has got lots of functions. One of them,
Yes.
as is the case with the national payment system, is to
Right.
settle things between people without taking principal risk. Okay, so if I
Right.
said to you, you want to pay Tim in Bitcoin and Tim wants to be paid in Bitcoin, have I got a system that can facilitate it? Sure, I'll do it if
Right.
it's not illegal.
Right.
So yeah, I would if my clients wanted to settle between each other in Bitcoin, I'd facilitate that on my system. Why not?
Okay. Yeah.
Um, I wouldn't take Bitcoin risk because I don't believe that that's a function of the of a bank.
Right.
And I mean, I was in Sandton City this over the weekend, wandering around like everyone else, looking more than shopping because,
Okay. Yes.
and there was a Bitcoin auto bank. Okay, a
Right.
Bitcoin what, and I looked at it and I thought, I'm not even going to go near there just in case someone takes a picture of me because I don't know if it's real or not, but apparently it is. Apparently you can go to an auto bank and get Bitcoin. So,
Right.
yeah, the debate will rage on. Gold is
Right.
a reserve, the ultimate, if you like, reserve country, the store of wealth, the protection against volatility, all those good things.
Right.
Bitcoin has got those characteristics, the opposite characteristics, for a different reason. It's because
Okay.
growing like hell and misunderstood by most. Okay.
Okay. Oh, that's a good. That's what I call a markism. That's
Yeah. Growing like hell and misunderstood by most. Yeah, I had children like that for a long time. Yeah.
Okay, we better
Anyway,
stop now because we're going
we
down
better
that
stop
path.
for this week. Yeah, we go. Yeah, yeah. Have a good week, people.
Um,
I had a great little thunderstorm here in Joburg this morning. Yay! Love it.
okay. Please share. Please tell people about our little podcast if you think it's interesting. Give it to your enemies. If you don't like someone, give it to them.